At the Proof fam, peace and blessings. This is Derric Rakumor, and in this video, I wanted to do the conclusion of the difference between Maa and Maat. Before I talk about that, I wanted to kind of give some foundation, give a little bit of some groundwork here. And when I first started off in Kemetic spirituality, like I mentioned before in previous videos, I was reading and studying everything. And part of the reason why is because there wasn't a whole lot of information that was really published about, Kemetic spirituality, how to practice it, or any of that. So, like most people, I went ahead, I read the history, I read, basically read the history and all that, read the history books of numerous authors. All right. And one of the things that happened was that eventually I came across this, this individual, or this historical individual, who we all know as Akhenaten. Now, the interesting thing about that was that right around the time when I came across the name Akhenaten, I remember I was in Detroit. I was hanging out with my boy, and there was like this restaurant that was on, I believe it was on Woodward Ave. I can't remember, but there was this restaurant. They sold they sold a whole lot of artwork and all that kind of stuff, and they had they basically had, like, it was kind of, I think it might have been vegetarian or vegan soul food, or basically it might have been Idaho, food or what have you, because I'm not sure if they was ran by, if it was the store was ran by Jamaicans or not. But the whole point was that when I was reading, and I was, like I said, I was reading, I was studying all this other kind of stuff, that was the synchronicity that I came across Akhenaten. And it was interesting. I came across Akhenaten and everything, and right when I come across this store, came across this, or found out about this store, this restaurant, and what have you. And it was like, it was kind of like the Spirit's way of saying, hey, you're in sync of knowing who Akhenaten was and learning about this. And that's pretty much what happened. So after I went ahead, and I remember I think I talked to the store owners or what have you, who was Akhenaten and what have you. And they gave me some, they told me from what they knew who he was. But it led me to, do my own research. And of course, the more and more I read, the more and more I learned about Akhenaten. I learned, that he was quoted, everybody basically said he was the founder of the Kemetic monotheistic religion, and everybody, like I said, every time I read something, that's basically what happened. They kept saying that same thing, that Akhenaten, he was the founder or a leader of the first Kemetic monotheistic religion. Okay. Now, the more and more I read about this, the more I also found out that there were a lot of Jewish scholars that tried to sync Akhenaten and Moses together. There were some theories that said that Akhenaten was Moses. There was other theories that said that Moses was he was a follower of the Atenism religion. It was all of this, okay? And all this was all said and done. And part of the reason for even learning about this was mainly because, again, I was on that path of trying to understand, how do I practice Kemetic spirituality when there isn't any teaching, teachable resources. Now, there were a few traditions and what have you that existed, but like I said, most of the information that we have now, it was not available to people, especially not in the Midwest or what have you. So it wasn't all that widespread. All right. So went ahead, like I said, learned about, I learned about Akhenaten, learned about, I was entertaining this whole thing because, like I said, I was reading these scholars and they were saying that basically Akhenaten might have been Moses, or Moses might have been a follower of Akhenaten. Whatever the case, it basically led to the 42 laws of Maat. All right. So, like a lot of people who was involved in, who just got into Kemetic spirituality and you're new to it, you're like, oh, okay, well, hey, the 42 laws of Maat, this is where the 10 Commandments came from. And almost instantly, I tried to do the same thing. I did the same thing that a lot of people are doing now. I tried to practice them. I tried to, live my life by them, tried to commit them to memory and all that. Wake up in the morning and I would be saying it and all that kind of stuff. Reciting them and everything until, I don't know, something happened. And when I can't remember what it was, but it was something that happened. It was like all of a sudden there was an epiphany. And it was like, hey, guess what? The 42 laws of Maat weren't posted all over ancient Kemet, And the more and more I listened to what this, this voice or this spirit was telling me, it was like, yeah, the 42 laws of Maat weren't posted all over Kemet. The Kemetic people didn't live by the 42 laws of Maat, And the more and more I like I said, the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I, contemplated on that and really looked at what they were saying. I mean, it was right. In the Kemetic people's thousands of years of history, you don't really see the 42 laws of Maat all over the place. So what that means is that they didn't live by the 42 laws of Maat. And it goes back to what I was saying before. The 42 laws of Maat they belong to the scribe Annie. Now, part of the reason why that's hard and that's difficult to understand is because a lot of us are coming from a very religious background. And just like I was saying before, we're struggling with how do we practice a spirituality without someone telling us how to practice the spirituality. Okay? That's what we're struggling with. Because we've been told all along that if there's no one there to tell us that this is how you're supposed to do things and this is what you're supposed to do, then for the most part, you're being a sinner and you're going to go to hell. And that's a subconscious conditioning that is inside a lot of us. That's inside most of us, okay? Because we've been trained that way. Now, Maa and Maat, the 42 laws of Maat, okay, were the laws. These were laws that were basically, they were written specifically for the scribe Annie. And this is the reason why we don't find the 42 laws of Maat posted all over the place. Okay? There's not a whole bunch of temples that have the 42 laws of Maat on them. Okay? They might have principles, they might have codes, but they don't have the 42 laws of Maat. All right? Now, so I went in here and I remember when my, like I said, my guys was telling me this. My guys are telling me this. They're helping me to understand this. I understand they're my guides now. Okay, didn't know that back at the time. But my guides now, after they're telling me this and they're showing me this. Okay, they're making this realization to me. Okay, the next thing I know is that when I keep going, I keep studying and all this other kind of stuff, and what I came across was that they had all indigenous cultures. Okay, the Kemetic people included. But if you go back and you look at most of the indigenous cultures, including, we're talking like maybe the ancient Sumerians, ancient Babylonians, all these indigenous cultures, for the most part, they all had roughly 7 principles that they follow. All right. These 7 principles are what we refer to as, principles of Maat. Okay. I prefer to call them, or I was told to call them, the 7 codes of Maat. All right. Now, the thing about these principles are that when you read them, if you shut down your intellect, temporarily shut down your intellect, and just listen to them and allow your third eye to kind of figure out, show you things in regards to these principles, these codes, you'll see the difference between what Ma'at and what Ma'at actually deals with. Okay? So for instance, code 1, Ma'at is truth and is based upon perspective. Again, like I said, shut down your intellect and just listen to them. Hear what your third eye, or see what your third eye is basically showing you. Code 2, Ma'at is balanced and is limited by the mind. Code 3, Ma'at is harmony and becomes what attention is focused on. Code 4, Ma'at is justice and doing what is right now. Code 5, Ma'at is love and love is exchange. Code 6, Ma'at is order and not coincidence. Code 7, Ma'at is propriety and doing what is relevant. Now, if you listened, or if you allowed your third eye to show you, or have some free thought, and allowed your third eye to basically show you some things about those codes, there was automatically some ideas and what have you that came to mind when I'm reading these codes off to you. If you allowed that to happen, you would have found out. You would have saw something else. You would have felt an imposing energy as soon as you went ahead and you thought, you hear Ma'at is truth and it's based upon perspective. You would have felt an opposing energy say, no, it's not. When I said Ma'at is harmony and becomes what attention is focused on, you would have felt an opposing energy that when it told you, focus on this right here. Don't even listen to that. And what I'm saying is the fact that you're hearing that opposing energy, that lets you know this is where you're coming into contact with Ma'at. Ma'at deals with being in alignment with our constantly revolving and constantly evolving universe. That's what Ma'at is. That opposing energy that you're feeling, that is your ego. That is your set. Okay? That is what's another term? Flesh. That's your humanity. That is telling you that does not want to change. Psychologically speaking, it's your subconscious that does not want to change. Okay? It's trying to keep you in this same conditioned physical state of being. In other words, it is basically keeping you hostage, keeping you enslaved by your fears, your phobias, your anxieties, all of those things. That's so when you're talking about Ma'at and Ma'at, the difference, Ma'at is about being in alignment with this constantly changing universe. You hear when you read and you hear about indigenous people all over the world, and the Kemetic people were the same. They always talked about being in alignment, being in balance. Okay? This is what Ma'at is. Ma'at, all right, is once you realize what that alignment deals with, once you start to see, all right, because you felt that energy already. You felt that opposing energy, but you also felt the positive part. All right. Once you start to feel that energy and you start, oh, okay, oh, all right. So I'm fighting against my flesh. I'm fighting against my set, my ego. I'm fighting against my humanity. Once you start feeling that, this is when you invoke Ma'at. And this is when Ma'at comes to the scene and it's like, yes, now I can go ahead. Now I can help you. Okay? Ma'at is not about listening to you. I'm telling you from experience. Ma'at does not give a damn about you reciting 42 laws. She just does not. All right? Let me rephrase that. None of these Maatian spirits care about any of that. That's for your benefit. All right? That's for, let me rephrase that. That's for the scribe Annie's benefit. When you start coming into an alignment with this constantly changing universe that we are living in, when you start realizing, hey, I am not this physical body. I am a spiritual being, which means I'm constantly evolving. All right? I'm constantly moving. But it is our ego, it is our set, it is our humanity, our flesh that is trying to, that keeps us down. When you come to that conclusion and you realize that this is what's happening, this is when you start to see and you start to awaken. You start to free yourself. You start becoming a more enlightened spiritual being. This is what Ma'at deals with. That's the difference between Ma'a and Ma'at. Okay? Or I should say the 42 laws of Ma'at versus Ma'a and Ma'at. Okay? Again, I'm speaking from experience. This is based upon my experience, based upon my understanding. As I've mentioned before, when you start coming into this understanding, you start, you come into this realization. Okay? Once it starts clicking. That's when you start seeing Ma'at. Ma'at comes out of nowhere. All right? I mean, she just comes out of nowhere. Let me rephrase that. Her spirits, all those guys that work with her, they come out of nowhere and they just help because they understand and they're merciful, but they're also very, very strict. But they come out and they basically help you because they understand, they understand that we're trapped in this humanity. They understand that our imprisonment, okay, our spiritual imprisonment is our physical body. That's what we've been identifying with. So I wanted to share that with you all because I know there's people who are out there and they're coming into this Kemetic spirituality thing and they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to recite the 42 laws of Maat and that's going to be it. And I'm that's not it. Okay. I hate to say it, but I have to say it. If you just wanted to follow what somebody else tells you to do, then you should have just basically stayed in the religious set that you were in. Okay? Because that's not what Kemetic spirituality deals with. All right? In order to be in alignment with our constantly changing universe, our constantly changing and evolving divine supreme being, okay? In order for you to be in alignment like that, you don't depend upon what somebody else is telling you. You don't listen to, I'm not saying that they don't offer any good advice or any of that, but I'm saying that you do not allow others to dictate to you what you're supposed to be doing and how you're supposed to be living your life. And those of us who are, our family who are sitting up here who are saying, hey, follow the 42 laws of Ma'at, that's what that is. You just basically you're exchanging one religious mindset for another religious mindset. Okay? Kemetic spirituality doesn't deal with that. Kemetic spirituality is about letting you listen to the divine within you. And through the divine, this is where your guides, your ancestors, and all these other spirits, what have you, that's what they talk to you, and they're helping you because they're trying to help you to stay in alignment with what is going on in our ever-changing universe. So I want you to understand that, okay? Don't be fooled by the fact that someone puts up here the 42 laws of Maat and try to get you to follow those. Don't be fooled by that, okay? That is I'm not calling it evil by saying it's a Setian practice. I'm calling it a fixed mindset, okay? And it has nothing to do with spiritual growth, okay? Again, the scribe Annie, those 42 laws of Maat, those were for the scribe Annie. Those were to help the scribe Annie to be in alignment with the universe. Those laws they're obsolete for us, okay? For a majority of us, most of us, 99% of us, okay? They are obsolete because it has nothing to do with tying me or keeping me in alignment with the universe or with the divine. All right? So I hope that helped. As I've stated before, you got any questions or so, feel free to drop me a line. All right? Again, thank you for your support. All right? Thanks again. Hatchapu. Peace.
No pretending, baby, I'm sending all my love to you.
Here she goes again. I can feel her eyes closing in. It's like a rigged game, but how the fuck am I supposed to win? The OG say cheer up, but wifey wants a scholar and a traveler, hunter and a gatherer.